Good.
Should we just test it? Test.
There's a hot coffee and hot tea and even some cakes and cookies in front of the church. And we probably have about 5 minutes before we start. So perhaps you can go ahead and grab your hot drinks before we start it, because
Hello? Hello? Test. Test. Is it working? Test. Test. I don't think it's working. Hello? Oops. Hello? Hello? You can hear it? Wave your arms if you can hear me. Thank you.
I'd like to invite others when they first come in, because up front here, there's a lot of empty seats. So please come and close up here. We'd like to invite people still hanging out in front of the church. Please come in as we may start a meeting in about minutes. All right, thank you very much on behalf of Father Andy and Parish Pastoral Council. We would like to thank you all your time and consideration to be here with us today. Have you been heard that the pastoral plan, especially the implementations timeline, have been introducing recently, and right now this is the first time that we have gathered here today to execute, sharing, and also we propose in our very beloved St. Elizabeth Parish. So, thưa quý ông bà và anh chị em, hôm nay thì chúng ta có dịp để ngồi lại với nhau để chia sẻ về cái kế hoạch mục vụ của Tòa Giám mục mà Ngài Giám mục đã trăn trở và ao ước sẽ thực hiện cái kế hoạch này trong nhiều năm. Và trong tiến trình 2 năm nay, Ngài đã bỏ rất nhiều thời gian để thực hiện cái kế hoạch này. Thì hôm nay là lần đầu tiên anh chị em chúng ta có dịp ngồi lại để cùng chia sẻ và thực hiện những cái ao ước mà Ngài đã mong đợi. Trước khi cái buổi họp bắt đầu thì em muốn đi qua sơ về cái agenda của meeting ngày hôm nay để chúng ta follow. Before we get into the meeting, I'd like to just briefly touch into the meeting agenda that we're going to talk about tonight. The agenda will be consist of a pastoral plan process. And what is a pastoral plan? The implementation of the process, and after that we will break into the small groups, depending on the language is speaking. We try to break into 3 different groups. There's a Vietnamese, Hispanic, and also in English. And again, thank you for your presence here today. And before we do the meeting, I'd like you to pause for a moment, and for the end, you will start to have opening prayers. Thank you, Father.
I would like to use the prayer that was made for the 40th anniversary of the Diocese of San Jose. Dios eterno, te damos gracias por caminar junto a tu pueblo de la Diócesis de San Jose. Derrama tu espíritu sobre nuestra iglesia local. Que nuestras obras de fe y de amor lleven a otros hacia Jesús, tu Hijo. Y que nuestra alegre esperanzadora constancia levante a los cansados por la incertidumbre. Unidos a San José y a Santa Clara, continuamos caminando juntos con esperanza. Y día a día nos acercamos más a tu Hijo, nuestra luz, nuestra esperanza y nuestra salvación. El que vive y reina contigo y con el Espíritu Santo por los siglos de los siglos. Amén. So we ask the help of the Holy Spirit to help and guide us as we listen to our speaker tonight, Mr. Stephen Milligan. He is the director of the Office of Pastoral Planning and Implementation in the Diocese of San Jose. Like myself, Stephen was very much involved in the pastoral planning process of the diocese, first as a delegate of his parish in Los Gatos, St. Mary of the Assumption in Los Gatos. So we were together during the General Assembly of the Synod. We were also together in every committee that was established by the bishop, first from the planning for action team, planning team, and all the other teams that were implemented up to now. We are part of the implementation team of the pastoral plan. So we have been involved all throughout the formulation of this pastoral plan until Steve was hired by the diocese to head and to be the director of the Office of Pastoral Planning and Implementation of the Pastoral Plan of the Diocese of San Jose. As you very well know, early December last year, the bishop made public the fruit of the synod and the fruit of so much reflection and action. And so we come to this pastoral plan, of which Mr. Milligan will talk more about his plan. But before I bring you Mr. Milligan, I would like also to welcome our brothers and sisters from St. John the Baptist Parish, our neighboring parish. So let us give them a warm round of applause as a welcome. May we ask our brothers and sisters from St. John to please stand up to be acknowledged. Yay! It is so nice of you to come and join us at this talk on what the pastoral plan is all about. So again, thank you for being here tonight at St. Elizabeth Catholic Church. A very special welcome to our brothers and sisters from St. John the Baptist, headed by their pastor, Monsignor Wilfredo Willie Manrique. Welcome again. We also have with us the parochial vicar, Father Edgar Elamparo. Okay. Our parochial vicar is somewhere. I think he's on retreat. So he apologizes for his absence tonight. Anyway, are you next one? Who is next? You are. Okay, without much ado, please welcome Mr. Stephen Milligan, the Director of the Office of Pastoral Planning and Implementation of the Diocese of San Jose, who will speak to us now about the pastoral plan and how we can implement that pastoral plan right here in our parish, in your parish at St. John the Baptist. Thank you, Mr. Milligan.
Thank you, Father Andy. So the first thing is Happy Easter. I hope everybody had a wonderful Easter. And so anyway, yes, my name is Steve Milligan. Only my mother calls me Steven, so I go by Steve. A little bit of background about myself. Right around when the world locked down with COVID, I retired. I don't actually like the word retired because it makes me feel so old. But I retired, when COVID hit, and I started to get involved. I was trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do in my retirement? Because I'm actually still relatively young. I just turned 60 this year. And so I knew I wanted to keep active and things like that. But I kept getting involved more and more in various different Catholic endeavors, let's just call it that. And as Father Andy indicated a few years back, a couple years back, I heard about the bishop, planning this whole synod exercise, and so I became interested in that and got involved in that. Now, a little bit of background about my personal, I won't get into too much detail, but my personal, if you want to call it, faith journey. I was actually raised Protestant. My father was Southern Baptist. My mother was a Methodist, and I was raised Lutheran. I don't quite know how to explain how all that happened. I went to a lot of Protestant churches in my younger days. And as I grew older and then got to dating age, I had the tendency to date Catholic girls. And so I actually grew up in Ohio, but I moved out to Silicon Valley and dated a girl who it's not my wife, by the way, but we started to go to Queen of Apostles, and I don't know if it's in San Jose or wherever it is. And then eventually I met my wife through work. She was also a Catholic. And then we got engaged, and she said, I want to get married in the Catholic Church, so I went through RCIA. So that's how I actually became a Catholic. But I was baptized and confirmed into the Lutheran Church. But I've always been blessed, and I do emphasize the word blessed, with faith in God, faith in Christ, and a strong, very strong belief in that. And so, again, as I got involved, and then from a professional standpoint, not to bore you too much, but obviously starting my career out here in the Valley, I was a tech person. I actually am an accountant by trade, and was a finance person, became a CFO, and eventually became the chief executive officer of Western Digital. Some of you may know Western Digital, which has operations not too far from here, or at least they used to. And so I finished my career as the CEO of Western Digital. But anyway, as I got more involved in these Catholic endeavors, and I certainly felt the Lord sort of calling me to spend this part of my life, I guess you might say, in service of the Lord, and in terms of bringing what I like to say, Christ alive in our world as much as possible. But I became involved in the synod process. Father Andy, some of you heard this presentation before. I was joking with some of them. You guys can actually do the presentation for me that have heard it before. But as Father Andy indicated, I am a parishioner at my wife and I, who have now been married 33 years. We have 2 kids. Our daughter's at Santa Clara. Our son's at Bellarmine. But I participated in 3 listening sessions or synodal kind of sessions at St. Mary's, one for broad parishioners, one for the leadership of the church, and the other one related to the school. And then the bishop asked Father Andy and I, and among others, to become, I guess we were called commissioners, where we took all the input that came from all of the synod process, and then we basically helped to craft that into what is now the pastoral plan. Now, to give a little bit of explanation about that, I have a lot of slides here. I'm not planning on going through all of the slides in incredible detail because it would take too long and you would get sick of hearing from me. So I'll kind of give you a little bit of highlights of what it was all about. But when we had, I know it's hard to read, But this explains the planning process. So out of all of those listening sessions that took place at the parishes across the diocese, there were 8,000 comments that came in, 8,000 points of feedback. What happened is that those 8,000 points of feedback were then summarized into 96 different categories. So 96 different categories. And then we had the General Assembly. I was asked by my pastor in St. Mary's to be a delegate to the General Assembly, which was held a little more than a year ago at Santa Clara University. It was a wonderful experience. It was a spirit-filled experience. I have to admit, I had my doubts going into it. But we basically, there were about 200 of us, delegates from across the diocese. We basically took those 96 categories and then we ranked them, obviously from 1 to 96. So the most important to, call it the least important. Not that it wasn't important, but it was ranked as the least important. Then what we did is we presented that to the bishop, and then all of that input was then provided to this commission that I was referring about earlier. And we met quite a bit. It ended up kind of feeling a little bit like a job. Remember, I was retired, and I was trying to work on my golf game and all that stuff, and not doing a very good job of it. But we took all that, and then we crafted it into the pastoral plan, which was a lot of work, and it took a lot of effort to do that. And there were about 20 to 25 commissioners that were part of that process. And then what we did beyond that, again, this kind of summarizes it. One of the things that I really liked about the pastoral planning process, it was different than what I experienced in a corporate world. I equate a pastoral plan a little bit like a strategic plan that you would put together for a corporation. But the way that we did that, there were lots of consultations. There was lots of sharing of that information. Sharing of that information back out to the delegates at least twice. Lots of sharing with all of the priests and the pastors throughout the diocese. So there was a lot of vetting and a lot of discussion and a lot of input that went into the pastoral plan. Now, the important point of that, and there are a few points that I'm going to try to emphasize as I go through this presentation. One of the most important points about the pastoral plan is that it is based upon input from all of us. If you want to call it the people of God, the people of the church. We didn't go and hire McKinsey or Bain or some consulting firm to go and craft this pastoral plan. It was based upon input by people like you and me, a very diverse group. And so this, in effect, is what our people of the church are telling us that they want to see us do. And so I think that's very important because, and I emphasize this, maybe not so much from all of you, but certainly with our clergy, because I have been spending a lot of time with our clergy, in that, you know, our priests are very, very busy. I love our priests, by the way. And so I always have to preface it with that because I don't want them to think I'm saying anything critical about them. They might get mad at me. But they're very busy. They're very busy people. And so they may, like, why do I want to do that? Why should we have to change? Why do something different? And it's because this is what the people are asking us to do. This is what they think we need to do to move the church forward. So that's how the pastoral plan came about. Now, another question that you might ask yourself, and I'm going to have to pause here in a second so that Father Andy and I forget your name. Yes, they're going to do a translation. They're going to try to summarize what I said. I have to talk really long, so it makes them really hard to summarize it. You know, I'm joking, of course. But you may ask yourself, why do we need a pastoral plan? Why did our bishop do this? So now I'm going to get into, let's call it, some hard facts. The reality of it is that our diocese is facing, oh, by the way, the same challenges that pretty much any diocese is facing across our country. And not only that, the same in the Protestant churches, where frankly what is happening is mass attendance is declining. Over the last 10 years, on average, in our diocese, mass attendance is down 35%. Further to that, the number of sacraments that people are participating in is down slightly more than that, at 37%. So we're seeing declining attendance. Further to that, we're seeing more of a decline when it comes to our younger folks, youth and young adults. And so we have an declining aging population that is participating in Mass regularly or participating in the sacraments. And so the bishop, seeing what was happening and talking to other bishops across the country, said, we need to try to do something about it. And this predates my involvement with the diocese, other than being, a lay participant in the diocese. And so he made the decision, after much prayer, discernment, discussion with a variety of different people, and said, I think we need to go through a synodal process to hear from the people and hear what they think we need to do when presented with the reality of the challenges that we face. So that was the basis of how the pastoral plan came about. And with that, I'll just pause for a second and let you, if you guys want to get up and translate for a little bit.
Trước khi em summarize về cái tiến trình về kế hoạch phục vụ, em muốn giải thích với quý ông bà và anh chị em. Ông Steve Pelican, he's a director của cái department cho planning và implementation, vì cái sự quan trọng của cái tiến trình mục vụ, cho nên Đức Cha đã mở một cái văn phòng riêng để thực hiện cái chương trình này và mời ông Steve này làm giám đốc cho cái department đó. Thành ra anh chị em thấy rằng nó quan trọng như vậy. Trở lại vấn đề cái tiến trình mục vụ, thì như quý ông bà và anh chị biết rằng là cách đây khoảng 1 năm, 2 năm thì anh chị em cũng đều có cái dịp là ngồi lại với nhau để chia sẻ về cái chương trình sign up, chương trình đồng hành. Khoảng 2 năm thì trong lúc đó tất cả các 54 giáo xứ ở địa phận chúng ta đều có cái chương trình đó hết. Và sau gần 6 tháng, tất cả các anh chị em giáo dân ở trên San Jose này chia sẻ và gom lại propose, đưa ra tất cả những cái dự án và những cái đề nghị lên trên tòa giám mục, đúc kết lại hơn 8.000 cái đề nghị lên trên tòa giám mục. Và out of 8.000 cái đề nghị đó thì Đức Cha đã có một cuộc họp với các đại biểu, trong đó mời mỗi giáo xứ cử 2 hoặc 3 đại biểu đến để họp lại với nhau. Thì trong buổi họp cuối tuần đó sẽ summarize lại từ 8.000 cái đề nghị đó trở nên lắng động lại còn lại 96 cái đề nghị. Và ngoài cái 96 cái đề nghị đó, họp để lắng động lại những cái ưu tiên, cái nào thực hiện trước, cái nào thực hiện sau. Còn lại 48 cái dự án mà phải thực hiện trước. Và hiện nay thì chúng ta đang target, chúng ta đang hướng tới vấn đề thực hiện ưu tiên của 48 cái dự án đó. Qua rất nhiều khoảng thời gian và bao nhiêu những cái proposal, bao nhiêu những cái đề nghị và bao nhiêu cuộc họp trong vòng 4 năm, 3 năm vừa qua, cho nó đi từ cái chỗ mà lắng nghe từ các giáo dân của tất cả giáo dân của địa phận San Jose này cho đến ngày hôm nay là mới thực hiện và thực hành cái 48 dự án đó. Em muốn chia sẻ với ông bà anh chị em như vậy. Father, you want to?
Gracias. Queríamos más que todo informarles, este es un proceso que empezó en la diócesis para realmente tener la información que proviene de todos ustedes, no es de alguien que está afuera, sino para ver las necesidades de la diócesis en esta época. Y esas necesidades estaban basadas en realidades a nivel del país, a nivel de la diócesis, que fundamentalmente es la disminución de feligreses que asisten a la misa dominical, así como la disminución de los jóvenes y jóvenes adultos en la diócesis. Y por ese motivo se buscó hacer un proceso de búsqueda de información y de consulta. Muchos de ustedes participaron en las consultas que se realizaron, dieron su opinión y todo fue eso llevado a un sínodo en donde se vio las opiniones de todos y durante varios meses en un proceso donde estuvo envuelto muchos los sacerdotes y nuestro querido párroco para determinar cuáles son las necesidades en nuestra diócesis y cómo vamos a poder enfrentarlas. Fundamentalmente la idea aquí era que no venía de alguien que hacía una consulta, una compañía, sino venía de cada uno de nosotros, de cada miembro de la diócesis para realmente dar la opinión que es necesaria. Entonces ese proceso duró varios meses y es lo que le vamos a presentar a ustedes.
All right, so I explained a little bit in terms of what was happening, the backdrop in terms of what led the bishop to kick off this process. Now, the other thing that I talked about is the bishop consulted with a lot of bishops across the country. Now, some positive news is that, well, it's actually kind of characterized in a negative way, but it's positive for the Diocese of San Jose. The Diocese of San Jose is in much better relative shape than a lot of other dioceses across the country. And so, for example, in our neck of the woods, the Diocese of San Francisco has declared bankruptcy. The Diocese of Oakland has declared bankruptcy. We don't have that same situation. But we do have the situation where we've got declining attendance and things like that. But we are not, as a diocese, in a crisis. So as the bishop was talking to other bishops across the country, where they were in crisis and were required to go through, I'll use a corporate word, kind of a restructuring to deal with those challenges, they learned a lot of lessons as a consequence of that, all right? And so why were those dioceses having to go through those restructurings? One, they had financial challenges from declining attendance and, honestly speaking, the overhang because of sex scandal lawsuits and things like that. Again, we don't have that same problem. They also had an issue with declining priest count. We, as of right now, do not have a priest count problem in our diocese. But what each bishop said as they went through these, call it restructurings, is that the one thing that they wish that they had started with, that they, quote, forgot, and, oh, by the way, serves as the cornerstone of our pastoral plan for the Diocese of San Jose, is the notion of spiritual renewal. And so that's a second really critical point. All of the things that we are trying to do as it relates to this pastoral plan need to come back to spiritual renewal. Now, we can each individually or collectively come up with different definitions as to what we mean for spiritual renewal, but clearly there is spiritual renewal as us as individuals. There's spiritual renewal for us as a community of believers at a parish level, at a broader level, and all of that. And then not only that, spiritual renewal for those that maybe are not believers today that we'd like to bring into the fold going forward. So everything has to be brought back to spiritual renewal. And so I'm not going to go through this in detail. These are some of the key challenges that are facing the Diocese of San Jose. Oh, it's got this where I've got to click through each one. That makes it highly inefficient for me. Are you guys okay if I skip over this part? Or do you want to give a summary?
Thưa quý ông bà và anh chị em, mặc dù chúng ta biết rằng là cần có sự cần thiết với sự canh tân trong đời sống mục vụ và đặc biệt là những sinh hoạt mục vụ, tuy nhiên Địa phận đang phải đối diện với những khó khăn, như ông vừa mới chia sẻ là thế giới ngày nay họ có một cái thái độ gọi là xa lánh và bị tục hóa đối với đức tin. Ngoài ra giáo hội còn bị ảnh hưởng cũng như là bị mất uy tín về vấn đề lạm dụng tình dục. Số chủng sinh ơn gọi linh mục thì lại ít dần. Thành ra trong khoảng 10 năm nay thì cái số, mặc dù là cái cư dân của San Jose này tăng lên khoảng 6%, nhưng mà cái số người đi tham dự các thánh lễ là giảm xuống gần như 40%. Vì thế có tạo bao nhiêu những khó khăn về vấn đề vật chất cũng như về vấn đề tổ chức sinh hoạt mục vụ.
Fundamentalmente, nuestra diócesis basó su información de las necesidades de otras diócesis. Afortunadamente no tenemos los retos de muchas diócesis adjuntas, por ejemplo, la bancarrota de la diócesis de San José, de Oakland y de San Francisco, que no es el caso de nosotros, pero sí hay retos como la baja asistencia en muchos casos de los feligreses, como mencionábamos. En algunas diócesis no existen suficientes sacerdotes, en la de nosotros, nuestra diócesis, no tenemos esa dificultad en ese momento, pero sí existe el bajo número de seminaristas para renovar el número de sacerdotes que se necesitan. Todo está basado en algo fundamental, la renovación espiritual. El fundamento de todo es nuestra renovación espiritual y podemos muchos entender qué cosa es renovación espiritual, ya sea a título personal, a título de la iglesia, pero también una renovación espiritual a aquellos que están alejados en esos momentos de nuestra iglesia, que queremos atraerlos para que regresen. Entonces el fondo de todo lo que se va a ver en unos minutos está basado en lo que es la renovación espiritual.
Is it repeating? I apologize for this having to go through. I'm going to skip through some of this. Yeah, I don't know how to do it very quick, though. All right, so I'm not going to read through this, but this is just to highlight the fact that, well, as Father Andy indicated, in December of this past year in 2003, the Pastoral Plan, we gave birth to the Pastoral Plan at a lovely event at Our Lady of Levang. It was a great Vespers service that we had with the bishop. That document, I noticed there's some over here. We only have so many hard copies, but it's unavailable. It's available on dsj.org website. We have some handouts that you can take where I think you can do a QR code and actually go to the Pastoral Plan. There's lots of good details in there. I'm not going to go through all of it, but as part of the process that we went through, we put together a vision statement for the Diocese of San Jose, which I'm not going to read through all of that. We put together, it doesn't have it in here. We put together a mission statement for the Diocese of San Jose. We put together a set of values. So there was a whole bunch that we went through that sort of served as the foundation for what we were trying to accomplish through the pastoral planning process. But let me get to what the pastoral plan is all about. So there are 6 components to the pastoral plan. You can see them on here. I'm going to go through each one individually and kind of give you a sense for what it's all about. So let me do that now. You guys can stop me if you want to translate. So worship. All right, how do we make our worship environment better or more appealing, more meaningful, remembering that spiritual renewal is at the basis of this? So I like to characterize the worship part of this. Oops, I think it went ahead to a different. Uh-oh. I think my computer guy over there pushing buttons too. I'm joking, but the worship, I like to refer to it as the 4 H's. So what we're trying to do with worship is improve and capitalize on 4 different things. The 4 H's are hospitality. How do we make our worship environment more welcoming? The second thing is how do we help our priests and make the homilies more meaningful? That's the second one. The other one is music or hymnals. That's the other one. And then I forget, I just goofed up because I forget what the 4th H is, but I know it's related to the Eucharist. So how do we make the Mass experience itself more meaningful? And so we have a whole bunch of things that outline what we're trying to do in terms of making the worship environment more meaningful for all of us. Do you want me to stop on these? Okay. The second area is outreach, all right? And so outreach consists of a few different things. The first thing is evangelization. Now, I don't know how all of you react to evangelization, but remember I was raised Protestant, okay? And so Protestants are raised to do a lot of evangelizing. In some cases, evangelization can seem like a dirty word, if you know what I mean. Like you're out there, Bible thumping and trying to guilt people into coming to religion or coming to church. But we want to do this in a welcoming way. Evangelization, in particular, is oriented towards how do we bring those individuals that identify as Catholics but are not participating in the sacraments today. And that's a large percentage of people that identify as Catholics that are not participating in the sacraments today. So evangelization is important element of that. Catholic social teaching. How do we educate people on what actually are the teachings of the church and why are those teachings what they are? So that's a second component. And then the last thing is service. So how can we serve those in our communities, particularly those less fortunate than we are? So I'm going to pause, let you guys cover at least the first couple of ones, and then I'll go through the next 2.
Như em trình bày lúc nãy chúng ta có 48 cái đề nghị. Trong 48 đó thì trên tòa giám mục được phân ra 6 cái ưu tiên hàng đầu để thực hiện. Thì 6 cái ưu tiên đó thì được phân ra là worship, outreach, formation, youth and young adults and family ministry và structural renewal, tức là phụng tự, tức là cái chương trình worship, phụng tự, và chương trình outreach tức là ra đi hay tiếp cận. Thì ông đã chia sẻ 2 phần, đó là phụng tự và outreach tức là ra đi hay là tiếp cận. Thì trong cái phần phụng tự, tại sao nó có chương trình phụng tự thì nhằm mục đích là tạo cái điều kiện một cách thoải mái cho những người đến để gặp nhau trong nhà thờ, trong cái chương trình welcoming hay là gọi là chương trình thân thiện. Ngoài ra thì có chương trình thánh thể, tức là tạo điều kiện để chúng ta hiểu thánh thể như thế nào. Thứ ba nữa là ngay cả các vị linh mục cũng cố gắng để tạo những bài giảng, tức là những cái bài homily cho sốt sắng hơn. Và đặc biệt là trong thánh lễ là có cái mục vụ về music, tức là trong các ca đoàn, để tạo cái điều kiện và cái hoàn cảnh thoải mái để cho mời gọi thêm anh chị em tới đến tham dự trong những buổi lễ thánh lễ. Đó là nằm ở trong chương trình là outreach, là phụng tự. Thứ hai là ông nói về vấn đề ra đi, tức là outreach thì là nó có những cái chương trình là ra đi để tiếp cận, ra đi để sống cái đời sống hành đạo, và ra đi để truyền bá cái học thuyết của người Công giáo, và ra đi để phục vụ. Thì đó là 2 trong 6 điều mà ông vừa mới trình bày. Tí nữa anh sẽ trở lại, còn cái 4 phần còn phía sau.
Vamos a ir viendo que realmente hay 6 puntos o objetivos en este plan estratégico. Los dos primeros, el primero es la adoración. En la adoración hay 4 aspectos que comprende: la bienvenida, la Eucaristía, la homilía y la música. La bienvenida es cómo podemos realmente tener una parroquia, una iglesia en donde realmente somos acogedores con los feligreses que vienen a nuestra misa. ¿Cómo podemos mejorar la Eucaristía, hacerla más vibrante, de una manera que todos podamos entenderla y vivirla? ¿Cómo las homilías pueden reflejar un interés para todos nosotros y poder comprender este aspecto? Así como la música, la importancia de la música dentro de lo que es la adoración. El segundo punto que se acaba de ver ahora es alcanzar, el alcance hacia los demás. Uno de ellos es la evangelización. ¿Cómo podemos evangelizar? Algo que muchas veces las iglesias protestantes lo hacen muy bien, que a veces lo ves que van con una Biblia de puerta en puerta. Pero ¿cómo podemos llegar a nuestros hermanos que de repente eran católicos o por bautizo, pero están alejados de la iglesia? Nosotros en nuestra comunidad hispana tenemos muchos de esos casos y tenemos un proceso grande de evangelización que debemos continuar realizando. La doctrina social de la iglesia, cómo nuestra iglesia, nuestra parroquia, nuestra diócesis debe ayudar a hacer frente a las injusticias que existen en nuestra sociedad. Cómo podemos dar la mano y formar parte de ese apoyo a los más necesitados, aquellos que no están beneficiados o no tienen los beneficios que muchos de nosotros tenemos, y que sea una iglesia al servicio de los demás. Aspectos totalmente importantes de lo que es la justicia social, que es uno de los mensajes de nuestro plan.
Okay, the next area is formation. Basically, how can we help each of us on our journey of faith? The first one, which was, oh, by the way, you go back to the General Assembly we had, was very highly rated in terms of people wanting help, was how to help people with their prayer life, how to make that more meaningful for everybody. So that's the first part of that. Rite of Christian initiation, we have some work to do there. How do we help people with spiritual growth? We talked about spiritual renewal being the heart and soul of the pastoral plan. That's really what this is all about. And then providing education, retreat kind of opportunities for people as they go through their faith journey. Let me see. Youth and young adults. I talked about this earlier in terms of when we look at the population decline in terms of people attending Mass. It's even more so for youth and young adults. And so youth and young adults was one of the highest rated priorities coming out of the General Assembly. There were like 2 in the top 5 of those 96 items that we ranked. So this is a very important initiative for us. I brought in an individual associate director, a guy by the name of Andrew Brown, who's a bit younger than me, and he was campus ministry for St. Francis. So this is his number 1 priority, is working with our youth and young adult and doing what we can, I'll call it, to bring them back to the church. We're going to start that out with a couple of listening sessions rather than us telling our youth and young adult what to do, which sometimes as a parent you do that. We want to make sure that we hear from them and understand their concerns and what they're hoping to get out of their church experience. So we have a young adult, I think we're calling it Summit, listening session that will be held this fall, and then that will be followed by a youth summit in the springtime, late winter, springtime, kind of a year from now. And then we will work on engaging them and then training youth leaders, young adult leaders, so that they can attract other individuals of similar age. Just, oh, by the way, youth we're defining as, I think, kind of up to 18, and then young adults are 18 to, Andrew has said, to 35. So that's kind of the age group that we're looking at in terms of helping to assist them in building their faith. Family ministry. So, as I indicated, my wife and I have been married for 33 years. We have 2 kids that have all gone through Catholic education, starting in St. Mary's. And one of the things that always was, I'll just call it disappointing for us, is that you would see kids that were going to Catholic education, but on Sunday we would not find their parents participating in the Eucharist and Mass. And so we need to have a better way of not only keeping those kids engaged when we're talking about youth and young adults, but how to accompany parents and families on their journey as well. And so family ministry is important to us. And you can see the points that I kind of made: parents engaging them, accompanying them, supporting them, and giving them a sense of togetherness that they can find in their parish and their churches. So we have the parents part of this. Now the last one that I'm going to talk about, and I will tell you this is the most controversial part of the pastoral plan. So structural renewal. So what do we mean by structural renewal? Well, the reality of it is that if you look at our parishes, and it varies by the different parishes, but we have a lot of we have issues at individual parishes that vary depending upon their circumstances. So, for example, I live in Los Gatos, right? Los Gatos, a relatively affluent neighborhood. And so financially, St. Mary's is okay, but we don't fill up the church, all right? So you have an underutilized asset, a physical asset in terms of the church. Oh, by the way, from the resource perspective, I don't know exactly this, but I don't believe, I've kind of lost touch of this, but I don't believe we have anybody that is focused on youth or young adults ministry. We maybe have part of a resource that dedicates themselves to rite of initiation or what have you. So you don't have enough resources to address the ministries that need to be addressed. Now you have other places where the churches are quite full, but they might be financially challenged, or they might have other issues. And so what we are going to be working on in structural renewal is how to do a better job of structuring ourselves, sharing resources, pooling resources, so that we can better address the ministries that we feel that are essential for us to address as a church. There are no plans, and I want to make this clear because there have been some rumors, there are no plans to close any parishes, and we don't have that same need. We have 53 parishes in the Diocese of San Jose, which if you look by comparison to other dioceses of equal size, we actually don't have that many parishes, but we do have, I will call them inequalities, which may be a poor choice of words, but just things where it's not quite even in terms of resources, that we need to look at how we can structure ourselves to be more effective and be more efficient. So those are the 6 components of the plan. So I'll turn it over to you guys to kind of summarize.
And I would like to add to what Stephen said about structural renewal. The clergy of the Diocese of San Jose will tackle about that issue in our study week in May. So the Bishop of London and his 2 Vicar General and Office of Pastoral Planning will be coming to the Diocese of San Jose, where they will share to us their experiences about restructuring the diocese, how the parishes decided to form family of parishes, because there are many options that are available in terms of how to restructure the diocese in terms of parishes. We have mergers, we have they formed a family of parishes, and so on and so forth. It all begins with parishes working together. Okay, so for example, because of limited resources and finances, parishes will need to see what their strengths are, and perhaps they can partner with another parish, not necessarily their neighboring parish, but somebody that has the same makeup as them. So where can they cooperate in terms of ministries like youth ministry, like young adult ministry, and so on and so forth. So these are the ways that priests need to work together so as to be able to have the best use of whatever resources are needed or are available in the way they do their ministry in that particular parish. Joseph?
And that's London, Ontario, by the way, not London, England. It's, yeah, and they have, it's a huge, big mass, like land, but like their parishes are totally far away. And it's cold there too, in case you noticed. So a lot of different challenges.
4 điều mà ông vừa mới trình bày tiếp tục sau 2 cái điều mà nãy em mới chia sẻ với quý ông bà và anh chị em đó, đó là vấn đề đào luyện, tức là formation. Làm thế nào để chúng ta học tập và để biết nhiều hơn để nhằm mục đích là để truyền giáo, truyền đạo Công giáo. Thì như ông đã chia sẻ, có 4 cách để tìm hiểu và tạo điều kiện để mà truyền giáo. Thì qua cầu nguyện, tức là prayer, tạo những cái sáng kiến để mình có thể làm công việc truyền đạo cho được tốt đẹp, hay là phát triển tâm linh, hoặc là có vấn đề học hỏi, học đạo luôn luôn là cái nền tảng cho vấn đề hiểu biết về đạo Công giáo. Và điều thứ tư mà ông có trình bày đó là thiếu nhi và các giới trẻ. Thì trong thời đại hiện nay chúng ta rất cần lắng nghe các giới trẻ để hiểu các em. Và thứ nhất, thứ hai nữa là để xem các em có cái đề nghị như thế nào để chúng ta hợp tác để cùng với các em để thực thi những cái điều mà các em cần. Thứ ba nữa là chúng ta có một cái khóa huấn luyện để tạo các em trở thành những người lãnh đạo trẻ cho giáo hội cũng như là cho cái địa phận nói riêng. Và chương trình phục vụ gia đình thì điều thứ 5 là vấn đề phục vụ gia đình. Thì gia đình luôn luôn là, như quý ông bà và anh chị biết, là nền tảng của đức tin. Thì trong gia đình thì luôn luôn có sự cầu nguyện và đặt cái nền tảng là Chúa ở giữa trong cái môi trường của gia đình. Thì qua đó chúng ta được để ý và lắng nghe bậc làm cha mẹ. Chúng ta tạo điều kiện để sống gần gũi với nhau, nâng đỡ với nhau và liên kết với nhau trong cái đời sống gia đình. Thì cái mục vụ về gia đình, như cha chánh xứ có đồng ý và hội đồng mục vụ có đề nghị với cha xứ là trong một thời tương lai rất là gần, giáo xứ sẽ tổ chức và form một cái nhóm gọi là elderly ministry, tức là những cái nhóm về cho những người lớn tuổi. Qua đó các anh chị em lớn tuổi có thể có điều kiện, tạo điều kiện để gặp gỡ với nhau, chia sẻ với nhau, cầu nguyện với nhau, tâm sự với nhau và có cái nơi để mà sinh hoạt. Tại vì cái đời sống của nó rất là busy hiện nay, đặc biệt là cho những người lớn tuổi. Vì thế là cái trong tương lai gần thì giáo xứ Saint-Sylvestre sẽ thực hiện cái nhóm hay là cái đoàn thể về cho những người lớn tuổi. Và đặc biệt là cuối cùng là canh tân về cơ cấu, tức là ngoài ra giáo sư tòa giám mục muốn lắng nghe xem là giáo sứ muốn như thế nào về cách tổ chức của tòa giám mục. Thì qua đó địa phận muốn mời gọi anh chị em chúng ta hợp tác trong vấn đề mục vụ để hiểu xem và muốn như thế nào về cái cơ cấu tổ chức của giáo hội nói chung cũng như là ở địa phận nói riêng. Đặc biệt là cái sự lo lắng tương lai của giáo hội qua cái sự sinh hoạt cũng như là đời sống của các vị linh mục qua lương bổng cũng là một cái yếu tố mà địa phận đang trăn trở. Và việc tổ chức như thế nào và cái nguồn tài trợ đó ở đâu ra, thành ra tất cả đều là những cái sự khó khăn mà rất cần cái sự đồng hành của tất cả quý ông bà và anh chị em.
Los cuatro últimos puntos de este plan estratégico que tiene la diócesis habla de la formación. de cómo uno de los objetivos de la formación es la oración, cómo podemos, qué es lo que podemos hacer en nuestra parroquia para que la oración sea un elemento fundamental. Igualmente, el plan de iniciación cristiana para jóvenes, para aquellos adultos que no han recibido todos los sacramentos, cómo podemos implementar un plan de formación de iniciación cristiana que sea comprensible y para todos los que necesitan. Igualmente, un crecimiento espiritual y el proceso de educación. El siguiente punto habla sobre los jóvenes y jóvenes adultos, cómo realmente enfocar las necesidades de los jóvenes de 18 años hasta jóvenes adultos hasta los 35 años. Cómo saberlos escuchar sus necesidades, poder entenderlos. Para este aspecto, la diócesis está preparando un sínodo de jóvenes y jóvenes para adultos que se va a empezar a planear ahora en otoño, y aproximadamente para el próximo año van a haber un sínodo de jóvenes para adultos, de tal manera de poder ver las necesidades y las realidades de la juventud, de los jóvenes adultos en nuestra diócesis. Un compromiso de involucrarlos, no solamente escucharlos, sino involucrarlos, y cómo capacitar o entrenar a aquellos que van a ayudar en la formación de este plan. El siguiente es el ministerio familiar. Vemos que de repente nuestros niños vienen a la catequesis, pero no hay un enfoque familiar. ¿Cómo podemos involucrar a los padres para que participen en esta formación? ¿Cómo podemos inculcar el acompañamiento, que no es cuestión de traerlos y dejarlos en la iglesia y que los catequistas se encarguen de ellos, sino que es un trabajo en conjunto, cómo apoyarlos y cómo trabajar juntos? Y el siguiente punto, que es quizás el más controversial, es acerca de la renovación estructural. ¿Cómo se debe renovar nuestra diócesis? No se está hablando aquí de cerrar parroquias, ese no es el objetivo, pero el objetivo es cómo poder ver los mejores recursos de las diferentes parroquias. Pueden haber parroquias con una gran capacidad económica, pero no hay asistencia, como mencionaba el señor Steve acerca de su parroquia en Los Gatos, y donde pues económicamente están bien, pero la gente no asiste. Y de repente él mencionó un ejemplo de que no existe una persona que esté ayudando para ver la necesidad de los jóvenes y jóvenes para adultos. ¿Cómo podemos ver? No, las parroquias no van a poder tener la capacidad de hacer frente a todas esas necesidades, pero si tenemos un grupo de parroquias, ya sea vecinas o en un clúster con las mismas necesidades, podemos realmente trabajar juntos para enfrentar esas necesidades. De repente una parroquia de nuestras características tiene un programa de ayuda para los jóvenes adultos que no lo tenemos nosotros. Entonces, ¿cómo podemos trabajar juntos para realizar ese enfoque?
Right. So let me spend a little bit of time talking about implementation. So I'm not expecting you to be able to read that. So the challenge with the pastoral plan, so I was involved with it from the beginning, as we were talking about earlier. The pastoral plan is a good plan. It is a comprehensive plan. There is very little in the pastoral plan that if you read through it, you would say, I disagree with this or don't think that should be in here. But there is one big problem with the pastoral plan. It's a lot. It's a lot to tackle. And so what we did, one of the first things that I did when I took my job in October, is that we worked on prioritizing things. So we said that when we go through implementation, we're going to have 3 phases. So you can see at the top, phase 1, phase 2, and then phase 3. And we took each one of the priorities and we put them into one of those phases. So we in effect prioritized. Phase 1 represents 12 to 24 months, phase 2 is 24 to 48 months, and then phase 3 is 48 months and beyond. So this is a long-term plan that the bishop asked us to put together and to work on implementation. How did we put things in phase 2 or phase 2 and all of that? There was not any science to it per se, but here are a few considerations that we looked at. One, if it was something that we thought we could do relatively easy, relatively quickly, that might have a quick impact, we thought about putting that in phase 1. If it ranked very high in the General Assembly, in other words, the importance of it was very high, we gave it more weight and thought about putting it in phase 2. There are other things that are going to take a long time, so we need to start them in phase 2, but we might not actually be implementing them until phase 3 timeframe. But we took each one of those, what we call objectives, underneath those 6 different priority areas, and we put them into phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Then what we did is relative to phase 1, which I'll show a slide, which again I'm not expecting you to be able to read, is that we then said, okay, how are we going to attack each one of those? See the little ones like we have welcoming, Eucharist, evangelization. We took each one of those and we said, how are we going to phase those in to the next 12 to 24 months? And so that's what, it doesn't have it in here. Oops, let me go backwards. But anyway, trust me, there's a slide that shows that. And then what we are doing subsequent to that is for each one of those phase 1 priorities, we are actually building detailed plans for implementation related to those. Let me talk about one that we're working on right now, which may interest you, and it actually turned out to be a lot of fun. If you look at, it's called 1.1, welcoming. Welcoming was one of the first things. I called it hospitality earlier. So we have been working on how to make our church environments more welcoming. So what does that consist of? The first phase of that, this is like a 4-month process. The first phase is that we have been doing research. So we have actually been visiting various different parishes where we believe they have better or leading practices in terms of welcoming. One of those parishes, I didn't actually visit it, I'm visiting it now, but Andrew Brown, who works for me, he came to Mass and he surprised Father Andy. Father Andy said, "What are you doing here?" But he came to see what all of you did on Sunday to understand practices. He's been going to a variety of different parishes over the last few Sundays to understand their practices. We're also looking at external research, if you want to call it that, external sources. We're also checking out the Protestants, because in some cases the Protestants do a better job of welcoming than we do. There's a lot of stuff out there, for example, like the Archdiocese of Atlanta has something about welcoming ministries. Next week, Andrew and I will be participating in a webinar on welcoming practices, etc. So we're gathering information. And then we're making sense of that information to, in a sense, assemble what I've called a menu. Now, the menu, and I hope all this translates, the menu that we are not trying to assemble, is there anybody ever been to the Cheesecake Factory? You know, the Cheesecake Factory has a big, huge, giant menu where you go there and you get overwhelmed by the menu. We do not want the Cheesecake Factory menu. We want this menu to be understandable and digestible. But we'll have a little bit, like I'll give you an idea of what the menu might consist of. So you might have welcoming practices that have to do with your website, or pre-Mass activities, or you might have during Mass activities, or post-Mass activities. So that might be your appetizer or salad, or your main course, or your dessert, or your drink, or what have you. And then we'll have some ideas under each one of those menu items that we will be presenting at a summit that we will hold. We've got a date. It's May 4th. I don't know exactly where it is. Andrew's not here with me. He's taking time off. But I think we're hosting it at one of our parishes, and we'll be sharing these best practices and talking about them. we've already begun to share this with the priests. We have a monthly meeting with the priests that Father Andy, Monsignor Willie, many of our priests go to, and we gave them a preview. And actually, they were quite interested in it. It was kind of exciting. It was kind of fun. Now, further to that, just to give you a little bit of detail, we just had one of our biggest days of the year, arguably our biggest, call it holy day of the year, Easter. So we gave a lot of ideas to our priests on things to do for Easter to be welcoming to people that don't normally go to Mass all the time. So we're very excited to get some of the input on some of them, on what they did. I know one parish, at my encouragement, one of the things that we encourage people, sorry to get into too much detail, but I actually find this kind of fun, is that, how, okay, now I'm going to show my age. You know how the younger generation likes to do selfies and takes pictures and then they post it on Instagram and all that kind of stuff, right? And so we said, why don't you have a wall, like just a little setup, that says Easter 2024 with kind of nice flowers as a backdrop where people can take pictures, post it, and then it has like St. Elizabeth or St. Mary's or whatever as a backdrop. So one of the priests actually, it wasn't one of the priests. It showed up in a WhatsApp thing I've got with some people that I know, where it was a selfie of the priest and this booth, okay? One of our parishes, where they'd set this thing up at our encouragement. The other thing is, and I was teasing the pastor there, I said, why don't you have little cutout pictures of yourself, like a priest on a stick, right? So they actually had little priests on the stick things, and then I said, why don't you have it, how you'd stand up there and you'd have like a cutout of the priest, and you could and it's not really the priest, but you're putting, I don't know what they call that, right? Put your arm around him. They did that. And I showed my kids, and I was so excited. And my kids, who are young, 21 and 17, they're like, that is so cool. And so they're actually starting to do some things that are fun and engaging for, let's call it, a different generation. But I thought it was fantastic. I cannot wait to get other feedback, to see what other parishes and other priests did, or pastors, for Easter. But we really tried to make a push, and we have a newsletter that goes out once a month where we encourage people on their welcoming practices. And so that's something that we've been doing so far. And as we work on these other initiatives, we'll be doing similar things with very practical advice that hopefully is intended to make a real difference at all of our parishes. So this is an example of what we're trying to do to make it exciting, to make it fun, to make it stimulating, to make it different, and why can't church be fun, huh? A little bit. I mean, I know it's serious too, but I mean, why can't it be enjoyable? And we enjoy communion and enjoy ourselves a little bit and enjoy each other in communion. So that's part of what we're doing. I'm going to end my presentation there. I'm going to turn it over for you guys to translate a little bit, if you can capture all the selfie sticks and all that stuff, right?
Thưa quý anh chị, chúng ta nghe nãy giờ thì vấn đề mà kế hoạch mục vụ nó show rất nhiều những cái việc cần phải làm trong cái chương trình kế hoạch mục vụ. Tuy nhiên làm sao chúng ta có thể áp dụng được cái việc đó? Thì đó là một cái câu hỏi được đặt ra. Mình có thể là 6 cái strategy, 6 cái điểm ưu tiên, mà mỗi cái điểm ưu tiên như vậy nó có khoảng 2 tới 3 hoặc có những cái 4 cái điều mà cần thực hiện trong cái điều như vậy, thì chúng ta có rất nhiều những cái điều trong cái kế hoạch phục vụ đó, thì làm sao chúng ta thực hiện được? Tại giám mục mới phân ra từng giai đoạn một, tức là chia ra làm 3 giai đoạn. Giai đoạn thứ nhất, giai đoạn thứ hai, giai đoạn thứ ba, và mỗi một giai đoạn như vậy, ngay cả mỗi giai đoạn như vậy, chúng ta cũng không thể nào thực hiện được tất cả những cái điều mà muốn ghi ở trong cái kế hoạch phục vụ đó. Thì mỗi giai đoạn như vậy, tại giám mục đề nghị là chúng ta thực hiện một vài cái điểm ở trong những cái điều mà ưu tiên đó. Ví dụ như cái worship hay là phục tự thì nó có 4 cái item, có vấn đề mà chào hỏi hay là thân thiện các cái, thì chúng ta chia ra giai đoạn 1 chúng ta thực hiện một vài điểm ở trong những cái điều ưu tiên đó. Giai đoạn 2 chúng ta sẽ chia ra thực hiện một vài điểm ở trong những ưu tiên đó, và đặc biệt và tiếp tục như vậy trong giai đoạn 3. Thì mỗi một giai đoạn như vậy, Tòa giám mục cũng không ao ước là chúng ta sẽ làm một cái thời gian nhanh, là tại vì nó cần thời gian để mà chuẩn bị, cần thời gian để mà thực thi, và cần thời gian để mà áp dụng cái chương trình đó. Tại ra mỗi một cái điểm như vậy đó, Tòa giám mục cho chúng ta từ 4 tới 5 tuần lễ. Giả sử bây giờ giống như ông trình bày về vấn đề welcoming chẳng hạn, thì chúng ta bắt đầu từ vấn đề tìm hiểu xem có thể làm gì được cho vấn đề welcoming. Thì cái thời gian đó mình planning có thể tới 4 tới 5 tuần lễ. Sau khi mình biết rằng là chúng ta có thể làm gì được trong vấn đề welcoming hay là thân thiện, chúng ta mới đưa ra kế hoạch, và cái kế hoạch đó cũng từ 4 tới 5 tuần lễ. Và sau khi kế hoạch đã thực hiện xong thì chúng ta có 4 tới 5 tuần lễ để apply cái đó vào trong cái chương trình. Thành ra có rất nhiều thời gian để thực hiện một cái chi tiết như vậy. Tuy nhiên, Tòa giám mục đề nghị chúng ta thực hiện tất cả những cái điểm ưu tiên đó cho mỗi một cái 6 điều ưu tiên đó cho cả cái chương trình, mỗi một giai đoạn như vậy. Như vậy sau khi 3 giai đoạn thì như vậy chúng ta sẽ hoàn tất được cả cái chương trình mục vụ.
Este plan implementado por la diócesis para implementar puede ser muy bonito, que está en un libro o se hizo en la inauguración en diciembre, pero pierde su valor si es que le falta algo que es lo fundamental, la implementación, de hacerlo realidad. ¿Cómo hacerlo realidad este plan? De tal manera de que de aquí al plazo tanto de la fase 1, 2 o 3, ya sea de 1 a 2 años, de 2 a 4 o más de 4 años, ¿cómo lo podemos hacer realidad? Eso es lo fundamental en esta etapa ahora. Se dividió en 3 puntos, la fase 1, la 2 y la 3, y como han podido ver, en la fase 1, uno de los puntos a tratar es la bienvenida, cómo hacer nuestra iglesia, nuestros servicios eucarísticos que tengan acogida y un calor para los que asisten. Están poniendo un equipo, un menú de ideas para implementar. No que se vayan a implementar todas, sino que veamos cada uno de nosotros cuáles de ellas podemos tomarlas y que sean las más adaptables para nuestra parroquia. Está trabajando la diócesis en poner una lista y de la cual podamos escoger. Uno de los puntos que se mencionó, por ejemplo, fue acerca de la fecha tan importante que acabamos de vivir y que estamos todavía en la octava de Pascua, que es el sábado de gloria, toda la Semana Santa. Cómo hemos tenido una asistencia tan grande de feligreses y cómo hemos podido hacer de que se sientan atraídos y que puedan regresar. Algunas iglesias, ellos dieron sugerencias a los sacerdotes de ideas para implementarlas. Una de ellas era tratar de usar el WhatsApp, o si no, imágenes como a veces vamos a Disneylandia y vemos una foto de Mickey Mouse y nos tomamos una foto junto con ellos. ¿Cómo podemos hacer y que en ese caso no sea Mickey Mouse, sino sea nuestro párroco el que esté ahí y que se puedan tomar fotos? ¿Cómo poder hacerlo que sea atractivo no solamente para los adultos, sino también para los jóvenes y para los niños? Entonces, lo que se está viendo ahora y lo que vamos a ver dentro de un ratito es cómo podemos hacer este plan una realidad, y lo vamos a ver en 13 aspectos. Corto plazo, la fase 1, de 1 a 2 años, la fase 2, plazo intermedio de 2 a 4 años, y la fase 3 de 5 años para adelante.
Talking about the topic on having our parish to be very welcoming, this afternoon I had my dental appointment with Dr. Fabiala in her dental clinic. And as I was parking my car to go to my appointment, a patient who comes to our church commented to me that she was here in all of the Holy Week services, And she told me she felt being a part of this parish family because she has been welcomed to the church. And she felt that sense of belongingness. She said that I feel so welcome because people are so very welcoming at St. Elizabeth. And that is also the reason why I keep coming back to the church. So that's one of the things why we truly work very hard so that everybody who comes to our door feel welcome, that we do not ignore anyone. I tried to put a very positive note as I greeted all people yesterday. I never mentioned CEO Catholics are back, Christmas and Easter only, but I told them I feel so much joy to welcome all of you here. We do not only welcome our door, we don't only open our doors, the doors of our church, but also the doors of our hearts. And I pray that we will see you again. Come back next week because it's Divine Mercy Sunday. And, those things, they don't feel insulted. They feel that we miss them. And there is joy in our hearts to see so many people fill our church last Sunday. So again, this is part of the pastoral plan to be a very welcoming parish, and we will find ways and means on how to enhance that, beginning with the members of our ushers ministry. Ushers, they collect the collection thing, and that's it. I mean, they pass on the alcohol, but after the Mass, we don't see them anymore. You see, how do we enhance their ministry further? And I plan to send them all to that hospitality summit happening in early May so that we learn more how to do our ministry to be a welcoming ministry. Okay? So we now have this opportunity for you to ask questions. If you want to, do we have a microphone there? So we'll put a microphone so that people can ask questions to Steve. His time is very precious. We are so fortunate that aside from his own parish, this is first outing in the parishes outside St. Mary's of Los Gatos to talk about the pastoral plan. I think I carry some weight in inviting him to our church since we work together in the chancery. We always see each other. And he said he can come and join us in this orientation of what the pastoral plan is. Anybody would like to ask a question? You now have your chance to ask any particular question.
Before, I just wanted to thank all of you for being here. We are more than happy to do this, and the fact that all of you are here is very encouraging, and your willingness to learn more and hopefully be involved in how to help make the pastoral plan come alive at St. Elizabeth. It makes a big difference. So thank you for that.
Anybody would like to have a question? Yes, we have a question here.
Thank you. Actually, it's not a question. It's a thank you and a suggestion. For example, I think we are, like how you say, we are like so fortunate to have Steve here with us. And I think to meet our goal, the diocese goal, it would be great if Steve, he can go like how he came to this church, if he can go to every single church. That would be great, and it's how we will see to how we can go meeting our goal step by step. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
It will be great.
Any comments, questions that you have? Okay, we have here from Saint John the Baptist.
I saw him on his phone. He was studying the plan.
From Saint John the Baptist.
He was thinking all of these questions.
Thank you, Steve, for coming here. Okay, so given all of this, it entails a lot of expenses also, of course. And you know, some parishes are not that rich. So what's the level of diocesan support can a parish expect?
Yeah, so it's a very good question, and it's kind of an involved question. All right, so let me give you a few details. And remember, I'm an accountant by background, so I can be like very precise with things. So the first thing that we're doing is we are trying to come up with an estimate of how much we think the pastoral plan implementation is going to be. All right, so that's the first thing, is we need to size it. Then we are making a determination of do we need to go through a fundraising effort at a diocese level. Until we get those facts, we have not made a formal decision on that, although it is likely we will go through some sort of a fundraising activity at the diocese level to help pay for the initial cost of the pastoral plan. But that's not a definitive yes. Now, more importantly, the other thing is that we're working with, and I don't want to say this definitively, and you're on the Catholic Foundation, and then you're on we have two Catholic foundations. Catholic Foundation, my wife's on the board of the Catholic Foundation, has a number of different grants, and then they also have a number of different donors where they have donor advised funds and that kind of thing. We are trying to work with the Catholic Foundation on how they can assist us in terms of the implementation of the pastoral plan. Mary Almack, who runs that, has said our number one priority is the pastoral plan. So I'll give you like an example. I'm not saying this will happen, but it's kind of a potential kind of thing. If St. Elizabeth wants to do something in implementing the pastoral plan, but they don't have the money, and there might be a grant available, could there be a grant requesting process through the Catholic Foundation? So we're looking at that as an alternative as well, in addition to overall fundraising efforts. But as I indicated earlier, at least initially, the phase one priorities are intended to be lower cost items to kind of build up some positive momentum, and then look at fundraising in the future to help support our efforts. But if you think there's a cost, we need to hear about it, and then we collectively, we need to figure out how we can look at creative ways of funding those kinds of efforts.
Steve, all of these you have an implementation timeline, about 36 months per phase?
24.
24.
Roughly.
How do all these translate into a parish plan?
Well, that's a really interesting question, and that's like a super good question. Okay, so you're asking great questions. All right, so here's the deal. Here's what we, implementation-wise, have been doing. One is figuring out how are we going to implement this beast, if you know what I mean, because it's a big plan. So how are we going to phase it to that, and then what are the different objectives? What do the plans all look like that? That's been a big part of what we're trying to do, in addition to getting some people to help me. There's that. The other thing that we've been doing is I have been doing a lot of, I'll call it education sessions. So getting the word out. We have gone to all 6 of the deaneries, if you guys are familiar with the deaneries. Many of you were there for the St. Elizabeth Deanery. So we've been getting the word out. I did a session like this at St. Mary's. This is the second parish that we're doing this. What we're finding is that, to your point, is that the parishes need help in terms of putting together plans at their level in terms of pastoral plan implementation. All right? So keep in mind, honestly speaking, remember I worked for a corporation for years, so I'm learning as I go. So as we've figured this out, what our next step is to figure out, I'm going to call it this, kind of a toolkit at the parish level to assist all of you to put together a plan at a parish level. That's where we think we're going next. And that's what we'll be working on next. So kind of stay tuned to this channel is kind of a way of characterizing it. But great question. Hi, you look like you're a young adult, aren't you?
Yes.
Hi, welcome, young adult.
My name is Ricardo. Hello, everyone. My question is, how can I join the summit, the youth summit?
All right, good question. And I don't have an answer for you. Andrew, my sidekick, is not here. I don't know if we've decided how to do this. I can't remember if we talked about this, Father Andy, at our implementation team meeting. But we will get an answer for you on that in terms of, because we'd love to have you there. And I don't know if we're going to do it. We're going to allot, like each parish gets, I'll make it up, 5 slots or something like that. And then you'd have to go. I would suggest that you go tell Father Andy that you'd like to be invited. So when he gets his allotment of young adults, you're like at the top of the list. That would be my suggestion for you. Monsignor Willie.
Hi, Steve.
Oh, okay. You go. Okay, go.
Can I go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, so the question I have is, you mentioned that for the worship
Yeah.
objective, music is one of the factors,
Yeah.
very important factor, and I serve in the music ministry. However, I noticed that the Hispanic communities, we don't have too much of music education
Okay.
available, mainly to the kids and to the young, to the youth, you know, because, well, I am almost your age, but and
You have more hair than I do, though.
we need to renew, right,
Yeah.
the ministry. So is there any plan to provide more music?
Well, I
education
think that, okay, so if you, all right, so I'm gonna sort of answer it this way, which is, if you look at the way that we're going about each one of these things, the first thing that we do is we do research, okay? So we understand kind of like where we're at. So for example, in music, which I forget where it is on the phases that I have to look up there, the first thing is that we would go and we'd understand where we're at and what needs we have. That's what you're talking about, that's where it would come up. In other words, we need, I'm translating your words, we need more training, we need more, this, we need more education, whatever it is. And then we would look at how we could offer that, right, as part of an implementation phase. So, but I think that's great input. So thank you for that.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Also, thanks to Father Andy for inviting the neighboring parish, St. John. Before the diocesan assembly,
Yeah.
we had listening sessions, and I think that's where you said 8,000 points were submitted. We did submit the results of our listening session. And then we got the first 96, and then the 48, and then finally the 6 goals. We made a conscious choice, the leadership of the parish, to delay our strategic planning process in the parish so that we can wait for the results of the diocesan assembly. At the same time, my question is, what is the freedom or the creativity within the parish? Do we have to embrace all 6? For example, as a parish, we have a school.
Yeah.
And that's a big ministry for us.
Yeah.
As a parish, we have financial constraints. As
Yeah.
a parish, we have facilities constraints.
Yeah.
So the the goals of the diocese may not be as crucial, or some, not all, some, and we have because part of our listening sessions surface those particular needs. So do we have to embrace all 6, or can...
Okay, so it's a great question. And I'll give you my opinion. In other words, I would suggest that you consult with the bishop to make sure I'm not like off base, right? But my straight answer to your question is no. You do not have to embrace all 6. So let me give background on that, because there's a lot of background to this. The first thing is there's 2 realities, in my opinion, to this diocese that are really important to keep in mind. One, and we all know this because we live in essentially Silicon Valley, is what the Diocese of San Jose is. We have great diversity. We have tons of diversity. Look at, here we are, we got Vietnamese, we got Spanish, we got English, just in this parish, just with this group. So we have a lot of diversity. So that's one thing. The other thing is not only do we have diversity of culture, but we have diversity of, however you want to, like you could say, of economic situations, of needs, or whatever, right? And so my parish might need this, your parish might need that, whatever it is. And so one of the things that when we think about implementation, the key to the success of the implementation of the pastoral plan is that it takes root at the parish level. It has to take root at the parish level. Therefore, in order for it to take root at the parish level, it needs to resonate with the people at that parish. So, as I've talked to other pastors, and it's been kind of, an ongoing kind of dialogue with a variety of different pastors. Some pastors have said, we have decided at our parish to focus on outreach and family. Another one might say, I'm going to focus on worship, or I'm going to focus on whatever. Okay? And then within those, they may say, I'm going to focus on welcoming ministry, or I'm going to focus on prayer. I know specific parishes where the pastor has a particular passion. I mean, prayer is important for us all, but some pastors are really passionate and they're really good at helping people with their prayer life. So they've taken that as a strong priority. We encourage all of that. We encourage all of that. What we are at the Chancery, I don't know, it's baseball season. Okay, I'm a baseball fan. What I am is I'm a pitcher. I'm going to pitch a bunch of different ideas about different things. And then you guys are the catchers. The analogy will only translate so much. But some of the balls you're going to want to catch, and some of the balls you're going to be like, I don't want to have anything to do with that ball. Right? That's okay. That's okay. And so I would suggest, what we have been suggesting to the parishes, and this is part of this process, is that you familiarize yourself with the plan. You have discussions. This leads into the next part of this. You have a discussion amongst yourselves within your parishes and talk about what resonates with you. What speaks to your parish? What is important? Go work on that. Or ask us for help. I want to work on, let's go back to prayer. I want to work on prayer, but we don't really know where to start. Can you help point me in the right direction? We can help you with that, even though it might technically be out of sequence of what we're trying to do. But whatever it is has to resonate, has to translate, has to mean something at the parish level. And so the answer to your question is long, and yes, sorry for the long answer, but I think it requires explanation as to why that's the case. I hope that made sense. So I'm not going to go back to the salad. Now, granted, that was on worshiping. If you want a salad, or on the menu, if you want a salad, fine. If you want dessert, we try to offer a little bit of everything.
That is also the reason why I encourage all the ethnic communities of St. Elizabeth to gather together what resonates best in your community, not to create something that's different from the pastoral plan, but as Steve had said, this is something we feel strongly about and we wish to concentrate on this. What the diocese is doing is to give us all the assistance we need so that we all move forward. And it's very important that everybody will have to do his or her share so that there is a spiritual renewal in our community. It's not enough that we just say we have always done it this way. There's always a better way of doing things. Faith is not only practiced by oneself, but we do our worship together as a community. And it's not just between me and God, but it is between me, my fellow worshipers, the church, and God. So we are concerned with everybody who comes to our church, and we want them to feel that they are part of this Christian community. So these are the reasons why the diocese is embarking on this pastoral plan, so that there could be another way of doing things, or there could be a better way of doing our ministry here in our church. It is not something that is imposed from above to the grassroots, but it originated all from the grassroots, sharing to the diocese their situation, what they aspire for, what their dreams are, and then so the whole process came in, and so we now have this pastoral plan today. So like St. John the Baptist, we also postponed making our strategic planning at St. Elizabeth, and I said to the Pastoral Council that we'll have to wait for the pastoral plan so that we can also pattern our strategies according to the plan of the diocese. So that we are not working against the diocese or outside the diocese, but that we are all together, and for we are part of one diocese. We are one of the parishes of the diocese, so this is what we are trying to work on also here in our community. Okay? Anybody else?
I guess it's good you're asking a lot of questions.
Thank you
Must have
for-
been paying attention. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Steve, for sharing everything for us tonight. In my mind right now, it might be a premature question, but I wanted to ask what would be our measure of success? Is there something that we will be targeting that's something quantifiable or something tangible for us to say that we're, affirming that we're going to the right direction or we need to change direction?
Yeah, so to get a little particular, for each one of the objectives, there are actually tangible metrics that we will be looking at to measure success. But I think for me, I don't want to oversimplify, but it's actually kind of simple. What do we, and I think each of us should try to think about what we want. I mean, what we want is we want a vibrant and alive parish church environment. We'd love for our churches to be full and overflowing and full of Christ's joy, sharing that joy with others. Obviously, we'd like the financial aspect that comes with that and the resources that come from that. But I think that if we think in terms of, the vibrancy and an aliveness, and we all know what that feels like. We've all been in a parish environment or a particular Sunday where the priest does a great job in an inspiring homily or whatever it is, or it's great music, whatever gets your heart warm. We're about to read in a few weeks, On the Road to Emmaus, right? Where their hearts were burning. I mean, we want our parishioners for their hearts to be burning and for that love and joy to overflow to ourselves, our communities, and to each other. And so that's essentially what we're trying to accomplish. But there will be Me being an accountant, there will be tangible metrics that we'll be looking at for basically all of these different objectives. I think he's got it. Hold on one second.
Un mensaje para la comunidad hispana, gracias por estar aquí. Lo que vamos a hacer es, vamos a coordinar con la coordinadora del grupo hispano para tener una junta donde vamos a estar todos presentes, los que hemos venido aquí y otras personas, para ver cómo vamos a implementar el plan. Tenemos aquí una copia para el grupo de oración, el grupo hispano y jóvenes adultos para Cristo, para que lo puedan tener. Y en la próxima reunión que llamaría la coordinadora Romelia, ya traigan ideas de cuáles de estos puntos de los que hemos visto podemos implementar a corto plazo. De esa manera no vamos a estar dando vueltas en ideas, sino en cosas concretas, porque eso va a estar implementado en el plan pastoral de la parroquia. I want to just mention this to the Hispanic community in San Elizabeth, that we're going to get together as the Hispanic community. They are going to have a copy of the report, the 3 different groups that we have in the Hispanic community, youth, jóvenes adultos para Cristo, grupo de oración, the prayer group, the Hispanic group, and the youth jóvenes para Cristo, I don't know how to understand, Youth for Christ group that are here in our parish. We're going to come into a meeting that we're going to present what are the points of this implementation, that we will do it, and that will be included in the parish pastoral plan, so we can have something concrete and well-defined, especially for phase 1.
Somewhere in the website, somewhere in the planning website, is something like summary action steps,
Yes.
and you're working towards that? Or is
I'm
that
sorry,
already-
we're what?
Is that, you're already working towards that, or is that already in place?
We are working towards that.
Okay.
Yeah, that serves as kind of our guide, right? So, and that was part of, like he was talking about planning action teams and all that. That's where that stuff all came from, yes. That serves as our guide when we get into it. Now, just to be clear, as we actually get into the implementation, some of that may change because we'll learn and, we'll adapt it. But essentially, it serves as our guide for each one of the different objectives.
One of the immediate plans I have for St. Elizabeth is I'm going to meet with different ethnic communities and meet with them how do we implement this pastoral plan in our church. Because each community has their different needs, have different interests, and how do we lead our ministries so that we are all together, that we are not separating ourselves from the rest of the community. Of course, we all have different needs, but it has to be jibe with the way what the parish is trying to accomplish. And I also plan to meet with the different liturgical ministries, beginning with our ushers, our hospitality ministry, on how to further enhance their ministry so that we become a welcoming church, especially in Sunday worship. So we have a lot of things in our list that we are going to do, because we all have to be on our toes so that we try to do other means of doing things. We do not have the same problems as other parishes have. A lot of our people have come back to church. We have very filled churches on weekends, even the daily mass. So that's not our problem. That is the problem of some other churches. But we are so blessed that so many of our parishioners have come back to church. So we have to build on that strength, on how to keep it going, on how to keep it growing. So that way we don't just rest on our laurels, but that we always find means to further improve. As they say, Yeah, if you want to your community to thrive, then you have to invest more and more of your resources towards it. That is also the reason why we have so many activities that are happening. We have the parish festival. We have so many other things because this is to enhance our church. This is to enhance our community. I'm allergic with all these flowers that are around.
Well, thank you, Steve, and thank you, Father Andy, to organize this one. I just want to share my thought. The church going the right direction. We need change. And we need change to grow. And this is the experiment I have with my own family member. They go to church, and they find it boring if there is a homily is not touching their heart. So I think it's very important. And then one of my son, he chose the church and the time and the priest that he go to, because he feel like when that church give homily, it touch him. He understand what the church want to tell him. So he want to come back to the church just because of that. So I think I'm very happy to see this we are going the right direction, and I would love to involve to be part of this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, thank you very much. I will get off the stage.
All right, what next? What next is we need to, at our parish level, that we need to do, when you go back to your specifically groups or ethnic group, we divide into the small group from 3 to 7 individuals. And then we can talk about the pastoral plan and how we implement and propose it. Quý anh chị thân mến, là sau cái buổi tối hôm nay nghe xong thì anh chị em ta sẽ làm gì? Thì chúng ta sẽ về cái group của mình, từng cái group ở trong cái sắc dân Việt Nam cũng như Mễ cũng như Mỹ. Chúng ta discuss và research tìm xem là có những cái chương trình mục vụ vì gì mà cần phải làm, rồi đề nghị những cái chương trình mục vụ đó trước ngày 9 tây tháng 5, tại vì cái tháng tới chúng ta sẽ họp một lần nữa vào ngày 9 tây tháng 5, thì hy vọng là tới ngày hôm đó mỗi sắc dân và mỗi group chúng ta đều có những cái propose, chúng ta đều có những cái đề nghị cho cái việc thực thi và thực hiện cái chương trình hoạch định cho cái chương trình mục vụ ở trong cộng đoàn của chúng ta. Vì thế một lần nữa em xin được nhắc lại là sau cái buổi họp này thì mình sẽ có rất nhiều việc phải làm. Thứ nhất là đặc biệt là những anh chị em có trách nhiệm ở trong cái hội đồng đoàn thể cố gắng đọc thêm những tài liệu và giúp những cái hội ở trong cái group, ở trong cái depend, ở trong cái sắc danh của mình để chia sẻ với họ. What I'm trying to say is right after the meetings, we have a lot of homework to do, such as we go back to your ethnic groups and divide into the small group from 3 to 7 individuals. And we talk it out, we research what needs to be done. And Father Andy like to see your proposal by May 9, that's the day that we're going to gather again. We'll look it up all the proposal, and then from there we will execute at the level of our parish first. Once again, before we end the meeting today, I'd like to invite Father Andy to have a closing words and also followed by the closing prayers.
First of all, I would like to thank Steve Milligan for being here with us tonight. This is such a very enlightening talk about giving us the history, why we have a pastoral plan that began with consultations in the grassroots of the community in the parishes. We had the synod, we have the different commissions, we have the action teams, and we had the launching of the pastoral plan in the diocese, which is now, and the parishes now have this opportunity to put this pastoral plan and implement it according to the needs of the community. And so we are very fortunate that outside of his home parish at St. Mary's, he chose to come here to give this orientation talk to St. Elizabeth and to St. John the Baptist. We're so happy that our neighboring parish members are also here. And we are also privileged to have parish leaders who support us. Joseph Tu is the chairperson of the Parish Pastoral Council, and Oscar Leon is the chairperson of the Parish Finance Council. And I don't know if Diep is here. He is also invited as the Stewardship Council. And we have here with us the different officers and leaders of the different movements and organizations here in the Diocese of San Jose. And mass coordinators and leaders are also here. So thank you so much for your presence here today. And this one is also, how do you call it? Transmitted on YouTube, so that we will tell it to the community that they can go to our YouTube channel, St. Elizabeth Milpitas, in case they want to know about the pastoral plan spoken into our level as a parish. So it's live streamed now on YouTube, and it will be on our website. You just click it. You know, one of my apostolate every day, because people have asked me to send them the link to the daily mass. A lot of our senior parishioners, they don't know how to find it, but if you send it as a messenger, then they just click it and they come and attend the mass. So that's what I do just before the start of the mass, trying to send out the links to our daily mass. It has become part of my responsibility every morning to send the link. When I was in the Philippines on vacation, they were complaining because I was not sending the link. I get so confused with time. When I'm outside the Philippines with 16 hours of difference, you know, I lose time, and my appointments in my calendar is also lost because I really don't know if I'm free at that time or not. I get so confused with the timing and the schedule, so I just tell them, I'm so sorry, I'm on vacation. So you have to find your way. I'm out of town. So that's my challenge. But as long as I can do it, I'll do it, because it is something that's very important for people to attend Mass and to be connected with St. Elizabeth, because they want to listen to the daily Mass, and so be it. So we try to make use of all available means to reach out to our parishioners. In our bulletin, writing for the bulletin, it entails a lot of time and effort for me, but I do it because people comment on it, and I do welcome your suggestions. We have a suggestion box at the front. You can always say, Father, your homily is so long or boring. So that way, we have a way of knowing how we are doing. It's not to put us down, but because you want us to improve our craft. And that's also part of the worship. There was a question, Mr. Milligan. Translation. Monsignor Willie called my attention. He speaks very good Spanish, by the way. Worship is not adoración. It's culto divino. Okay? Because adoration is just adoration to the Blessed Sacrament, but it does not encompass the whole meaning of worship. So, to the credit of Monsignor Willie, he said, who translated it? I don't know. I was not consulted. It's really culto divino when you talk about worship and not adoration. Adoration is just one part of the culto divino, but it doesn't encompass everything. So I think we need to put that edit in terms of the focus areas of our evangelization. We're so happy here with us to count on the presence of our parish deacon, Deacon Sam Milan, who has been serving us. He gives a lot of homilies, and I am very happy with his formation because he gives very substantial homilies also. We always have ways on how to improve. That's why one of the parts of the pastoral plan, how to enhance our skill in terms of our giving of homilies. So that's part, we are all on training in the diocese, and that will also, they let us enroll. And for those who have problems with not being understood by the parishioners, we have accent acquisition. How do you acquire the accent of the place that you are serving? Okay? So English by the hour, coaching on how to speak better English that could be more understood by the people. So that's all part. We also do our part on how to really enhance. Because as our parishioner there said, her son goes to a church where he truly gets something out from the homily. It's very important. So we are not perfect. There is always means to improve our craft. So your suggestions, your insights are always welcome. Anything else? So again, we have still a few cookies and other hospitality at the front. We have coffee and everything. So please help yourselves before you go home as we end this our gathering today. So again, thank you so much. Thank you to the religious sisters who are also here, both from St. Elizabeth and also from St. John the Baptist, to their parish leaders. Thank you so much for being here. The different ethnic groups and their leaders, we are also happy to have you here with us tonight. Okay? So, every time we gather in the diocese, there's always, how do you rate this? We forgot to prepare that. They just they take the QR code and it gives you some questions like that on how do you rate the conference, the talk. We'll do that next time. We're not prepared for that today. Okay, so we'll do that next time. So again, to the Vietnamese community, Hispanic community, Filipino community, the English community, thank you so much for being here with us. So, we promise that we end by 9, so it's almost ending. So let us all stand for the final prayer. God, our loving Father, we praise and thank you for gathering us tonight to listen more about the pastoral plan, to learn from it, on how to implement it in our church. Therefore, as we come together for our celebration tonight of this meeting, we thank you. Bless our parishes, bless St. Elizabeth, bless St. John the Baptist. As we do ministry in our churches, we thank you for the people who attend our churches here in Milpitas. We thank you for all our volunteers who give so much of their time, of their talent, and their treasure to our churches. We thank you for our bishop, for all our priests, and those who work for our church. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and the hour of our death. Amen. The Lord be with you. And may Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. We will come up with announcements about the Young Adult Summit that's happening, about the Hospitality Summit also that's coming. We have also a Young Adult Gathering at St. Lucie You find that in our bulletin this weekend. I want all our young adults to attend that. It's trilingual. It's at least bilingual. I don't know if it's trilingual, okay? Again, good night, everybody. God bless you all.
I have one more announcement.
Please listen.
I need to embarrass our parish president here because he's been selected as Knight of the Month for March for the Knights of Columbus.